Step into the giant metal shoes of Space Marine Commander Valgard Twice Slain. If you're not familiar with Warhammer 40k and don't know what a Space Marine is, here's what's up. These dudes are all about shooting big guns, swinging big hammers, and setting people all the way on fire. They can also apparently eat people's brains to gain their knowledge, which is pretty metal. Your team has had their ship shot down in enemy territory, and the survivors must now get their revenge. Very slowly, like a couple squares at a time. Welcome to Random Game Reviews. I created a spreadsheet containing every game in the PlayStation Store, and use a random number generator to determine which game I will play and review. This week, the RNG hungers for Warhammer 40k, Space Wolf. Well gang, it finally happened. I've been assigned a game in my favorite genre, the tactical role-playing game. I've played many over the years, including, but not limited to, Final Fantasy Tactics, Valkyria Chronicles, XCOM, the Disgaea series, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Triangle Strategy, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, XCOM 2, and Fire Emblem. Tactical RPGs are a bit like chess. If the pieces could blow each other's brains out, units take turns moving across the battlefield, attacking enemies, or bolstering the health and defenses of their team. There's a bit of randomness at play because your attacks only have a certain percentage chance to hit. Battlefield management is the name of the game because if you let one of your units get overwhelmed, you can quickly find the tide of battle has turned against you. If you're a veteran of the genre, here's what will feel familiar. You'll control a small squad of soldiers against a whole schwack of enemies. You can use an Overwatch ability to shoot at people who encroach on your space, and end of list. This game is a bit unusual in the genre due to its card-based mechanics. In short, over the course of the game, you will amass a collection of cards that hold within them all of the abilities you can use in this game. Normally, you just equip your units with some weapons, and off you go. But not in Space Wolf. You'll need gun cards, move cards, heal cards, sword cards, wolf cards. Each turn, a unit will have 2 action points to expend, which means they get to use 2 cards. Here's what is neat about this mechanic. Each ability has a stat called Effort, which you accumulate with each card you play. The higher your amassed effort, the further back in the turn order you go. So if your enemies all have higher effort than you can sometimes play one ability and then end your turn to get a whole other free turn. Also, some cards have what's called the chain effect, which means the card will give you a bonus if you meet a certain condition. For example, getting an extra action point for attacking somebody a certain number of squares away. Here's what isn't neat about this mechanic. Valgar has 3 different classes he can play as, which each specialize in different types of cards. Plotting out 3 full separate decks of 30 cards apiece is crazy tedious. Some cards need to be equipped to be used, but then have a set amount of ammo, which forces you to carry a bunch of similar weapon cards so you can use those cards to reload your equipped card. Like, why do I need to reload a sword? Moving is not its own separate mechanic from attacking. So if you don't have any move cards, you have to use your weapon cards to move, which doesn't make a lot of sense unless you had gun feet or something. Which could be a thing in this universe, I don't know. The game will reward you with more cards as you play, and you can also head to the forge and spend currency to make new cards. Cards come with different ratings, and you can spend more money to make cards more good. Within each card rating, cards will have various levels. If you have multiple of the same level, you can fuse them together to make a better version, which is great because it's another thing to have to keep track of. I discovered something by accident while building my decks. You can disassemble cards to get currency for the forge, but if you have an open slot in your deck, disassembling the card also equips it to your deck. This allowed me to unequip it and disassemble it again for more currency. This would usually work a couple of times before the card disappeared, but not with the Swift Claw Blade. No matter how many times I unequipped and disassembled this card, it kept coming back, which resulted in me having infinite knife money. As I'm looking through the rest of the notes for this script, it's basically a bunch of grievances and they all kind of fold in on each other, so here goes. This game feels very slow. There is no sense of quickness whatsoever. Controls are awkward and clunky, so inputting commands takes a while. The units move slowly, the attacks are slow, the enemies are slow. In their defense though, that armor looks pretty heavy. There's too many enemies in every level, and the levels take too long. I found that levels were taking 30 to 40 minutes to complete, and you have to dispatch dozens of enemies in each one. Because each encounter can leave your team pretty damaged, the best strategy is usually to sit around between fights, healing and buffing your units. Since enemy pods are triggered by progressing through the map, this severely impacts the pace. Pushing the tempo will get you killed, so there's just no sustained momentum. And you can't undo a move once you make it, which is dumb, because the ability to undo a movement is a staple of tactical RPGs. So if you make one dumb mistake 30 minutes into a level due to accidentally pressing a button, you can screw the whole thing up and have to start over. But the worst thing of all is that you can only shoot in the direction you're facing. Normally you can shoot in whichever direction you damn well please, and set what way you're facing at the end of the turn because getting attacked from behind will f you up. But in Space Wolf, you set your direction after moving and then can only shoot that direction. If you start a turn not facing your enemy, you need to burn a whole card to move yourself into a new position instead of just pivoting your dang body. Maybe this is a mechanic from the tabletop game. I'll check in with my friend Brian, who just played a Warhammer 40k tournament in Vegas, about how attacking works.
So ranged attacking is very simple in 40k. If you can see any model from your model, then you can shoot it. So this guy right here, he can get zapped by the Silent King. So can he. This guy's a bit tricky. Oh yeah, definitely. Lucky Jack here? Yeah, he can definitely get shot. Not him, though.
Okay, so it's just a dumb mechanic. Also, let's be honest, this game doesn't look great. You expect a certain level of quality in a PS4 game. It has an occasional over-the-top kill animation, but aside from that, the sound effects are weak and the whole thing looks like a mobile game. Oh, it was a mobile game. They just packaged the whole thing up for console and then charged a bunch of money for it. That makes sense. That's why the levels are so hard, so you'll lose and then spend money on better cards. A microtransaction model does not make for a good console game experience. It just doesn't. At this point, the developer was just banking on the fact that Space Marines are cool to market this game. But then again, are they? They all talk like they're in some weird Shakespearean play. It's the year 40,000, guys. Why don't you get some new slang, you jive turkeys? It's time to answer the question, would I play this game if I were not destined to do so? For Warhammer 40k Space Wolf, the answer is no. This game banks on a beloved IP to gain sales, and you can tell it works if you clicked on this thumbnail but aren't subscribed to the channel. The microtransaction system that serves as the game's skeleton bogs you down with endless deck management nonsense, and when you do get to play, you're treated to a myriad of quality of life issues and bad graphics. And while I honestly didn't mind playing this game, my patience for its bullshit comes from a love of the genre. You should pretty much play any TRPG but this one. That does it for this episode. Do me a solid and expend both your action points to hit the like button and leave a comment about what a Space Marine would learn if he ate your brain. Until next time, make sure to sell your knife 200 times to beat capitalism, and I'll see you all soon on Random Game Reviews. Thanks as always to my subscribers on Patreon. In channel news, Random Game Reviews has just passed 2,000 subscribers. But we're not going to stop there. We're coming for you 3,000. So make sure to tell 1,000 of your closest friends about Random Game Reviews.